It should be streaming in the next maybe 30 seconds. Marie, if you could check that. Well, it's probably coming up in about 10 seconds.
Yeah, I'm just pulling it up now.
Okay.
There's nothing yet.
Should probably pop up with an American flag there soon.
I've got it on my screen. I'm at least seeing the
Yeah,
flag.
I don't have it. I'll refresh. I refreshed and it's on.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we ready to go? I'll take that as a yes.
Yes.
All right. Welcome everybody to our November 19th Planning Commission meeting for North Logan City. Glad to have you here. We would like to begin, if we could, by having the Pledge of Allegiance, which will be led by Lindsay, after which Dwight will offer an invocation for us.
All right, please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our beloved eternal Heavenly Father, we humbly bow before Thee this night as a planning commission for the city of North Logan. We're grateful for the privilege and opportunity which we have of living in this beautiful land and as a part of this great nation. We're thankful for the many blessings that we receive at Thy hand, and we're mindful of all that Thou hast bestowed upon us, and grateful for the freedoms we do enjoy and for the right to assemble and to express our opinions and the opportunity to review those applications for this evening's consideration. We humbly pray for Thy Spirit to be with us, to guide us and direct us in our thoughts and deeds and actions, that we may do the things that be most appropriate and in the long run, our best for the citizens of North Logan. Grateful for the opportunities we have in this great land, and pray Thy Spirit to guide and direct us, watch over, protect us, and bless us as we go forth. We humbly pray in the name of Thy beloved Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Folks, give me 5 seconds and I'll be right back. Just hold for a second. All right. Sorry about that. Okay, let us begin. I would entertain a motion to adopt our agenda.
So
Also
moved.
motion.
All right, sorry, I missed who was that from? Who made the motion?
I did, and I think Dwight did at the same time. Lindsay.
Okay, so,
I'll be the second.
all right, motion by Lindsay, second by Dwight. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, so agenda adopted. Greg, thanks for being here. We'll look to you for moral support tonight, but I think we got a full quorum otherwise.
Okay.
Would also entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the previous planning commission meeting. Any concerns, anything from reading the minutes that need to be amended? Okay. I would entertain a motion then to approve the minutes from the previous planning commission meeting, which would have been November 5th, I believe.
I so move.
Motion by Dwight,
I'll second.
second by Lindsay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, motion passes. with that, let's talk about anything we need to from previous meetings. Spencer, anything that we need to follow up on?
No follow-up from previous meetings this time.
Okay. All right. With that, then I believe we are ready to move on to item number 1, discussion of single-family residential zoning density at approximately 2,000 north and 600 east. We'll have a presentation, it looks like, by Jake Young and Don Berenger. Spencer, if you can give us a little bit of an introduction and a lead in, that'd be great.
Yeah, so I'll introduce it briefly, then I'll turn the time over to Jake. And I'm not sure if I saw Don on here, but I definitely saw Jake. So the site we're looking at, it's one that's been looked at a few times. It went to City Council, Planning Commission multiple times with different proposals. This is about probably 1.5 years ago to 2.5 years ago. Just before I came in, while Cordell was still here. But this is the parcel in particular that they're looking at right now. That's zoned RE1. Let me turn on the zoning so you can see here. So residential estate, 1 acre zoning. That's what it's zoned at currently. And this whole area is zoned RE1. Before, when there were discussions before, there was this little flag here, flag, just visual descriptor. But that's been sold to the church there. So it's just the square that's left right there that we'll be talking about today. To give an idea of, and I came in kind of at the end of this, but it did go to Planning Commission, City Council for rezone a couple different times with a few different densities and wasn't ever approved. We did have a workshop after I got here with several residents around the area. A lot of people have showed up to these meetings and were voiced their opinions, primarily just concerns about this, about a rezone here. But so we had a workshop to kind of try to work out the differences between densities. We had Planning Commission members, we had City Council members, we had residents, and we had the developer. At that time, it was Lifestyle Homes. And we talked about this property. And the result of that meeting was some were leaning R120, but most were saying R115 is about as dense as they would go. The developer, I believe, was trying to go for R112, and at that time decided it kind of went cold for a little bit. But one of the things they talked about a lot was the density around. So we've got R110, R110, R115, R112 around it. And that was a big point. And I think Brad Crookston was in there in that meeting as well. But they were looking specifically at how it was developed. So this one's R110. This is the total lots that were actually built versus the maximum you could have in that zone. This one's pretty close to R110, built just 4 shy of what R110 would be. This one's 12 shy, so it's a little less. This one wasn't subdivided. Those were existing lots, but that one's about half. This one's right on R115, and this one's a lot less than R112, but it does have that church there too. So they've got one big lot, which is a little different than normal subdivisions. But that's one thing they talked about, and kind of one reason they were thinking more R115 line. So that's just a brief bit of history and context. And I don't know, Alan, if you can turn the sharing or allow Jake to share his screen. It'll probably be easier for him to flip through his slideshow if he can share. Where I can stop.
Want me to
sharing.
go ahead and do that?
Yeah, if you can share, then
Let's
go
give it a
for it.
try.
Alan may need to allow it.
I think you
I just made him the
did.
co-host, so let me know if that works, Jake.
Okay. Can you see the screen?
I see
Yeah.
your screen. Yeah.
Everybody can see that? Well, good evening. It's great to be with you. I see a few faces that I that I know. It's nice to be with familiar faces whenever you're going to planning commission meeting. I'm Jake Young. I'm a planner and designer. And also in our meeting, we have Don Berenger. Don, you want to wave so they can see you? Don is the property owner, and he's going to join us in the conversation as well. But I've been helping Don look at planning his property, and we've just been looking at some different options. When we began, this is the second time I helped Don with this project, but when we began discussing this a few months ago, we actually sat down and we talked about what do we want this to be like, and it was all about creating a great neighborhood for families. Like, I know North Logan really well, and North Logan is a great place for families, and we're going to talk a little bit about that and what the opportunities are here. This is something that Spencer's already shown. The property is on 600 East, about 2000 North. It's 8.8 acres. And then, of course, as you know, it's developed on 3 sides. So it certainly is kind of moving towards infill. Yes, it's being farmed, but really the R1 and the farming is a holding pattern waiting for it to get developed in the future. So as we have been talking about this property, we've been talking about the goals for it. And one thing about a good developer is they really look at creating value, not just dollars and income for them, but providing something of benefit for the community. And that's something that Don wants to do with this project. And these are some of the goals that we've actually been talking about quite a bit for this property. First of all, we want it to be a lasting, high quality neighborhood. We want it to be a neighborhood, that's going to look good in 10 years and 20 years and even 50 years. And not all neighborhoods do, but there's some things that you can do with the development to do that. And that's our goal here. Second thing is we want it to be a great place for families, individuals, and retired couples. Then also we want homes of different sizes and costs for middle income to higher incomes. Right now, it's impossible for someone with low income to buy a single family home in North Logan and even Cache Valley practically. But certainly middle incomes is almost out of reach, but it could be in reach if the city is willing to work with the developer. And then, of course, we want it to be a great place to raise families and built in mind for the next generation of home buyers. This development is for people that are currently renting in North Logan or they want to move to North Logan. I mean, we have to think about who's coming in and not necessarily about who sits next door to it. So those are the goals of the project. One thing that we're proposing, and this would be on rezone, we could do a development agreement, or it could be in the future, but these are some things that Don is willing to put into some CC&Rs. And the great thing about CC&Rs is these things is when the development is built and the homes go in, the things that matter are in place, and it's going to change. And one of that is street trees. Street trees go a long way towards making a great neighborhood. Whoever had the foresight of planting these trees on the street in Utah 50 years ago should be rewarded. I mean, you look at those nice big London plane trees and the shade that they provide. And that at that time, maybe it's $20 a tree. Today, that's $200 a tree, but that goes a long way. So that's one of the things that we're proposing in our CC&Rs that we want to do. The next thing is large porches. Having some nice porches can go a long way. I mean, that's where families hang out. That's where neighbors talk. It really kind of creates a good neighborhood. I have a great porch at my own house, and I like to hang out there and talk to neighbors myself. So, and I'm sure many of you do as well. Then the next thing is water-wise landscaping. I know that some of your ordinances in the city do require some water-wise landscaping. I don't know that all the residential do, but this is something we're proposing that certainly the front yards, the side yards have some nice water-wise landscaping. And by that, we're not just talking moonscape, as some people call it, but really where you have plants, you have some rock with color, some things like that. I mean, we do live in a semi-arid desert, and water resources are getting more and more scarce. So landscape is the best place to save on that. The next thing is garages. Now you look at this home and you say, okay, where is the garage? That's because it's tucked around the side. And one of the things, you know, as a designer, I'm always baffled. Why do we put the least attractive part of a home right out front and center? And it's like, it just makes no sense. Garages are nice, they're functional, they're important, but there's some things that can be done to make a neighborhood nicer. And that's when you tuck the garage around the side, you set it back a little bit. There's just a few things that you can do to emphasize the architecture of the home and not necessarily the garage. So that's our fourth item. And then I'll get to the last item here that we want to put in the CC&Rs. And that would be that no home would be the same next to each other. That way, when you drive through a neighborhood, you're not seeing cookie cutter homes, as people call it, or the same home next to each other. And that can go a long way. And that's really a simple thing. And sometimes, you know, when we were talking about this project with Alan, you know, he was a little bit worried that, you know, the city's not responsible for managing the CC&Rs after a project happens. But that's where, when a developer has it in place and it's built that way, pretty much the things that matter the most have already happened. And this is one in particular that I think would go a really long way as well. So one thing, you know, a lot of times as we're having discussion about development and neighborhoods with cities, everybody goes right to density. And I think that's the wrong D to be focusing on. The right D is design. Like, if you want a great neighborhood, you have to really look at design and talk about that. And that's why we're bringing these things up first, is because design matters the most for us. One thing we want to talk a little bit about is just housing in general. You've probably, of course, you've seen our slides, but we've been pulling some numbers and looking at housing in general in Cache Valley. It's a really tough time for housing, if you already own your own home and you're sitting there, then you're great. But if you're looking to buy or you want to change or do something different, it's a really tough time. And so that's where we need to pay attention to the market. So Don, do you want to talk a little bit about these slides? You got to press the mute button, lower left corner.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Yes.
I'm a little bit technologically challenged. Sorry about that, but I do appreciate the willingness of the Planning Commission to hear us this evening and hopefully enter into a dialogue so we can have some positive outcomes. One of the problems that we've got in Cache Valley, and I don't know how it's playing out, is affordability of housing. The numbers on the left here represent the percentage of, what is it, Jake, AIM?
Yeah, area median income, AMI.
AMI, area median income. And the 2020 area median income for Cache County is $64,600. So that really says that a person that is at that salary or that income for the household should be able to afford a house around $341,000 or a little less. We're not sure on this number if banks use that number or if they deduct the taxes and insurance as well, which would drop that number from 341 to some other number. But you can see as the average area median income drops, the individual who is looking to purchase a home, that drops substantially as well. So the person that's at 60% of that median income can only afford a home around $204,000. The reality right now in Cache Valley is that even townhomes are up around $230,000 or $240,000. Single family homes much higher than that. So the availability or the affordability is a crucial point for a young family trying to get started in a house. Could we go to that next slide, Jake?
Yeah, one thing I wanted to make note of is obviously 60% is not 64,000, but the 969 a month is correct there.
Okay.
Okay.
Oh, you were going to do these, Jake. That's why I'm stumbling a little bit, but I'll do the best I can here.
You're doing great.
We did a search a few days ago on the multiple listing service in Cache Valley and found only 4 homes total for sale in North Logan, and they're listed there.
This is it. This is all the homes that are for sale in North Logan. It blows my mind. I just never would imagine a city of this size only having 4 homes for sale in the market. And of course, you can see none of them are in the low to moderate affordability or even middle income.
Yeah. So it's a real seller's market, I guess you'd say, but it's a real buyer's dilemma at this point in time. Vacant land is on the next slide, and the same thing is true there. Jake, you found these. I think you found 3. I think a realtor friend of mine told me there was 13 total lots available in North Logan, ranging from 94,000 for a half acre to 2.5 million for, 94,000 for a half acre to 2.5 million for 10 acres. And those are the only lots that appear to be available on the multiple listing service in all of North Logan. There's a lot of people that would like to live in North Logan, but they simply can't find a lot to build on or a house that they can afford. So we go to the next slide. I started looking at the SB 34 was written a few years ago, and all cities in the state are required to go through their data and come up with a moderate income housing plan. And North Logan has a great plan. I read North Logan's and Smithfield's. They're similar. I think what the state intent here is that cities begin to take a serious look at the problem with affordable housing. And one way to do that is to look at the data within each city and try to come up with meaningful solutions to this problem of affordability and availability of housing. So in North Logan, if you look at the numbers beginning with 2015 down to 2020, you'll see that in 2015 there were 38 building permits. That's what these numbers represent as building permits. 2016, 46, 2017, 35, 2018, 51, and in 2019 dropped back to 31, and through September of 2020, only 17 building permits were issued in North Logan. I compared that to Smithfield because I live in Smithfield and I see the growth going on here. And you can see that the 6-year average for North Logan is 43.6 permits a year. And the 6-year average in Smithfield is 92.6 permits a year. And so you go back to the moderate income housing plan, and it states that in order for North Logan to meet the needs of the population, the projected population increases that are coming to the city or would like to come to the city, there's going to be 776 new homes need to be created by 2024. That's a city goal. 65% of those homes need to be single family, or 509, which translates then to 102 new homes per year to be built in North Logan. In 2020, so far we've built 17. So you can see that we're going to fall way short of our goal of trying to create housing that people who would desire to live in North Logan can do so. Let's move on to the next one there, Jake. By the way, we'll come back to these during the discussion time so that each of you can have an opportunity to give us your feedback. So then I went to Cache County sales through the MLS, the multiple listing service, for Cache County generally and North Logan specifically. So if you take 2016 as an example, look over to the second column where it says North Logan average of $287,500. That was the average price of a home that sold in North Logan in 2016. If you jump across that same line to the county average, the last column, the average home sold for $203,260. So the average difference, that column in the middle that's bold, was $84,240,000 more that this house in North Logan sold for than the average in the county. And you can go on through each year. It's up to 123, 112, 147, and so forth. So you could say that if you own a home in North Logan, that's a good thing, because if you get ready to sell it, you could probably get $100,000 more. The problem is who is going to be able to buy that home? Is it going to be a young family with children in the schools and wanting to settle into North Logan, or is it going to be an older family, perhaps with older children, that can afford that home? If North Logan continues to produce 43.6 units a year, by 2024, they will have produced 174 housing units, which is far short of that 509 that is needed. Let's see, the next slide, please, Jake. This is taken from the Moderate Income Housing Plan again. And the goal is for North Logan to rezone for densities necessary to assure the production of moderate income housing. And that's a very worthwhile goal. The problem that we have is in trying to create affordable housing. A little off of my notes here. And there's some problems. For example, North Logan has done a great job in adjusting their zoning to accommodate apartments and townhomes down around the town center. And so we could say that we have affordable housing down there. The problem that I see, and it's not just in North Logan, it's countywide, is that we are looking to those apartments and townhomes that rent for $1,150 a month for 1 bedroom, up to as high as $1,400 for 3 bedrooms. And we're calling that affordable. And I guess we could have a discussion around the term affordable, because I personally would hate to be spending that much right now on housing myself. You've also in North Logan created an abundance of large single-family homes on large lots and small acreages. However, there exists a lack of what we would call a ladder of opportunities in housing of different types and sizes and lot variations. And when apartment and townhome residents have children, they naturally want to settle permanently and have consistent schooling for their children and climb this housing ladder if it's available. Therefore, being able to move from the apartment or townhome to a single family resident that they can afford is a high priority for them. We have another problem in North Logan where we kind of concentrated the quote unquote affordable housing in one area. That often creates staffing problems for churches, busing and transient issues for schools, and perhaps a feeling among the residents that they're really not part of or viable part of the community. There's an example of this that's happened in Logan, and that's on the northwest quadrant of Logan, where they years ago zoned that much of that area for apartments and townhomes. And so now you have a very transient population all clustered around one area, and it creates a lot of problems for schools and churches and other services of the city. There's another problem that I personally think we ought to discuss, and that is stagnation. If young families who desire to purchase and live in North Logan are prohibited from moving into the city because there's simply very few affordable housing options, the current and future populations will continue to age out. And if these young families aren't moving in, at some point, the school populations will begin to decrease, church congregations will get older, and eventually current residents will seek smaller homes and smaller lots so that they can be more manageable as they age. And typically those older citizens would like to stay in North Logan. Another interesting point is that 65 to 70% of the growth in Utah, and I would guess in Cache Valley as well, is internal. In other words, it's from our own children. So if we want to have our families as they grow up be able to stay here in the valley, we've got to provide some form of ladder that they can get into and climb and eventually have a single family home that they desire. This next slide that you're looking at is taken directly from the Moderate Income Housing Plan. And it says by 2065, adults who are 65 and older will make up a larger share of the population than they do now. And it's also interesting to note that the average household size has decreased, I believe, from 3.61 in 2009 to 3.29 in 2017, and is projected to decrease to 3.14 people per house by 2024. So our families are getting smaller, and therefore the plan says that smaller housing or housing with fewer rooms is going to be needed for the declining household size. So following up and concluding my remarks, we would like to work with you in some capacity so we can discover ways to create a ladder for these young families to purchase homes in North Logan. Jake mentioned to me last night as we were talking about this presentation that a mentor of his said one time, the only way to overcome our housing crisis is for developers and cities to work together. And I really do believe that. My hope is that we can come up together with plans that will benefit the city and the developers and the residents especially. And so with that, I turn it back to Jake, and he's got some concept plans that we've been kicking around.
Thank you, Don. So we've been putting together some concepts, just kind of being creative. We're not coming here with a specific plan to propose. We really do believe in bringing forth some creative ideas to talk with the city, and that's what we've been looking at. Right before you is a concept based off of the R10 zoning. You'll notice we have two streets on the east side. That's mainly for flexibility. In my discussion with Alan and Spencer, we at least would do one street connection on the east side, and certainly we could do two as well. I'm a big fan of street connectivity. I know that's how good cities are designed and built, is having a lot of street connections that promotes walking, biking, even decreases driving when we have street connections. So that's the R10 concept there. But right here is the R12, very similar in terms of how they lay out, just a little bit bigger lot, of course, for the R12. Looking at the street right away that I drew up is 60 feet wide. That's your average street right away. It's what matches across the street and nearby. But again, two connections on the east side. And then the next one, this one is a little bit of a surprise looking at the SF6. Just a couple of weeks ago, Don and I had a phone call and discussion with Mayor Damon Can talking about the property and getting his ideas and input. And it was a little bit of surprise, but Mayor Can said, hey, you should look at the SF6 zone. We're really happy about it, and we kind of like the ideas that it's coming. And he said, take a look at it, just being creative. And so that's what we did. And I think one of the benefits that certainly we could pull off with the SF6 is to have a neighborhood park, a pocket park. This would be an HOA park. It's a small one, kind of about half an acre, but a good place for kids to play, a little playground, play a soccer game or pick up football or something like that. So here's the SF6. And then the next thing, just to be creative, we thought, well, what if we did SF6 in the middle, and then we did, either R10 or R12 on the perimeter on the sides. And so that's what this concept is here as well. And the cool thing about this plan is actually this gives you a mixture of housing sizes in a neighborhood. You know, so often our neighborhoods are very segregated. You know, a neighborhood is really segregated by income often. And then of course that leads to, it's a little bit boring, but also it just leads to the same families in the same size or the same where they are in life. But when you can mix up different lot sizes within a zone, or not a zone, but in an area, then you get some variety. So this is a mixture of the two. It wouldn't necessarily be zoned that way. It could be zone R10, R12 on the north and on the south, and then the SF6 in the middle, but gives you a variety there. So I really do hope that you're open to design and you don't just focus on the density and the lot size. These days, a lot of people are looking for smaller lots, less maintenance, affordability, and there certainly is a market for that. And as we've shown from the MLS, nothing smaller than a half-acre lot is available in North Logan. So certainly there's a demand for this. I mean, R10 or R12 isn't really that small. R6 is small, but certainly there's a demand for that because they get gobbled up right away. So that's the end of it. We really appreciate your time. We're here to listen, take notes. We're gonna go through the same presentation with the city council, and then make some decisions, talk about it, and then come back with a proposal for rezone. But we're here just to listen and see what you think. So thank you for your time.
Okay, Planning Commission folks, what are your thoughts?
So just so I'm clear, what I guess what's the expectation that's wanted from the Planning Commission tonight? Is it just discussion and ideas, or is there some kind of something? What's the objective, I guess?
We're here to listen and learn. So we're not necessarily asking for a recommendation or resolution. We don't have an application in or proposal. We just want to come and talk before anything's submitted. To me, there should always be a lot of discussion and planning happen before an application goes in. So that way we're on the same page as the city and there's no surprises. That's how I like to work with cities.
Okay. So one of the questions I guess that I've got, you talk about the CC&Rs, and you know, I think some of those things that you brought up sound attractive. From a standpoint of enforcement, because you kind of mentioned, okay, there's not necessarily, I guess my question is, how do those get built in? You talk about nice porches. What exactly does that mean, and how does that translate into somebody building on a home?
Sure, great question. So what I would propose is that even at the time of rezone, we have a development agreement in place, and it can be very simple, listing the CC&Rs, the 5 things that we talked about. And so that's recorded with the property at the rezone. And then in the CC&Rs, whoever the actual builder is has to follow the CCRs when it's being implemented. I mean, that's recorded as part of the property.
Okay.
Anybody else thoughts on that?
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, yeah, I'm always concerned about enforcement of CC&Rs, and if a whole development based around the CC&Rs, sometimes I am concerned about the enforcement of them, only from bad experience. I guess I have some questions more about, and I don't know if this was you, Jake, and Don, or if this was another developer, but I'm curious about, I am familiar that this area, or this acreage has been discussed before. It's come before Planning Commission. It's come before the council. And I'm curious, and I think, Spencer, you had indicated that, you know, there were some recommendations or some thoughts, or people felt good about the R15 zoning. I'm curious about what the decision points, or what's different from what was shared. And I don't know, Eric, if you were on the commission at that time, or Nan, you know, kind of what led the group to feel the way they did at that time. I would just be curious about, you know, history. It's not everything to me, but I'm curious about it. If someone could speak to that.
All right. And I can talk a little, and then Nan, you've probably got a better memory than me, and will have more to say than I do. The residents, as it's been brought up before, I think some of their concerns, they are concerned about density. And, you know, you see how lots were built up and the zoning around it. And the feeling that I got from the last go around was that people were still concerned that it felt too dense to them. You know, as I recall, it seemed like the R12, R115 area people felt all right about. But if I recall right, it was looked at as possibly being more dense than that. Nan, what other recollections do you have when we went through this last time?
I can't remember. I remember that. I think the neighbors, the residents, and I think they had a good point. I can understand their concerns about that. The subdivision across the street, what would be west of 600. When we saw, I think Spencer, you showed us earlier, they finally built 49. There are 49 or something homes in there. Was that right? I can't remember. That was similar to their first, I think, to the R12 proposal. But yeah. I don't remember more than that, Eric. I think it was mostly density, and I have to agree with him on that. So.
Okay, so the quick summary, and that's a good enough answer for me. I just was curious as to what drove it. So it's mostly concern from the residents near the area. And did the residents did they give some level of density that they felt comfortable with, or are they adamant about it staying, you know, RE1? Was there any kind of where was the line at that time?
And again, from my recollection, Jeff, it seemed to me that they had settled in and felt like overall, the impression I got from them was that an RE, 115 was something that they felt like was okay. Mm. So that was kind of where the residents came down, as I recall, the last time we went through this.
Yeah. Okay. So does that mean they were opposed to the 12 or the 10?
You had increasing, opposition from the people who lived in the area. Yeah, as that size dropped.
Yeah, I think the 10 they didn't like, but I don't remember. I was brand new. I can't remember exactly, but I do remember the density of it was the big concern. Yeah. So I think R12, R15 they were more comfortable with.
Remind me, what are the neighborhoods just adjacent? What's their density?
I don't know.
Yeah.
There's R10 to the south. There's R12.
10.
I'll let you talk, Spencer. It's just my memory.
So it's R110 to the south, and that one's developed pretty close to the R110 density. I think there are a couple lots short of the max, but I think they're pretty close. Then to the west, that one's also zoned R110, but that's the one Nan mentioned. They actually built 49 lots. Their maximum they could have had in R110 is 61. So they're about 11 lots short there. So they're probably closer to R112 actually built out, but it's zoned R110. Then north is R115, and it's built right at R115. And then just northeast, that one is that one's a lot short. That one's zoned R112, but it does have a large church in that subdivision. So that probably artificially lowers the number of lots. But that one's built probably closer to a R115. And the lots are about the same size as the one to the west of it. But yeah, and then there's the RE1 stretch right through there other than that.
Okay. So Jake and Don, I mean, what does an R15 or R20 do for your vision of the 8.8 acres?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
It's a matter of affordability, really. The larger the lot, the higher the cost. And so it's really a matter of economics. Can the people afford? You know, we keep adding things to their cost. So really the lot size, if we can get the lot size down a little bit, we can sell the lot to them cheaper for less money, which gives them the ability perhaps to get into a home where if we have a larger lot, that might just put them out of the market. Just like when interest rates change, it's all a matter of economics.
Yeah.
And Don, wouldn't you say that's kind of why you put the project on the back burners, because it just didn't make any sense or pencil at R15?
It really doesn't pencil for us at R15, but more than that, it doesn't accomplish what we'd like to see happen in North Logan, which is to get some young families to move in there. And following the housing plan that I reviewed, it would appear that North Logan would like to see these people have an opportunity to come in. I think we need to have a discussion around the affordability issue, because right now homes are not affordable in North Logan. They're barely affordable anywhere else, but particularly in North Logan. And if we continue to build on large lots and less density and so forth, it's going to become more of a problem. The neighbors around the area, you know, when they bought their house, they were on 10,000 or 12,000 square foot lots. They were able to afford them because of that. But now they're saying, well, they don't want their neighbors to have that same availability. They want them to be on larger lots. And frankly, I don't understand that logic.
So, yeah, so a couple things related to that. You know, I don't think the affordability thing is a North Logan thing. The entire valley is in that same situation.
Yes.
But, you know, in your slide deck, you indicate, you know, middle to higher income. And so I'm trying to correlate. So what's the target home price for this middle to higher income, you know, neighborhood that you're planning, or that you're looking at doing?
Well, I'll tell you what's happening right across the street from where I live here in Smithfield. 6 acres were zoned 10,000 square feet. In fact, the whole northwest quadrant of Smithfield has been zoned 10,000 square foot lots. Right across the street from my house, there's a young couple moved in there on a small lot, right around 9 or 10,000 feet, 9,000 maybe. They vary in this development. They have about a 1,400 square foot house, slab on grade, meaning no basement. And I believe they paid $290 or right around there, $290 for that house. The house right next to them is on an 11,000 square foot lot. No, it's on a 10,000 square foot lot as well, but it is a 2-story with a full basement. And so it sold for around $360. So in those two examples, you have a house that might be affordable for the first couple, the smaller home, but it is a single family detached home. And right next to it, you've got a home that is a little higher in cost, and another young family has moved into that. So we need some options for these people. And you're right. I don't know the gentleman who said that, but you're right. It's a problem throughout the whole valley. It's exacerbated a little further in North Logan because for some reason the houses sell for more in North Logan. But what we're trying to figure out is, and collectively with you, is how can we perhaps solve this affordability problem where young people can move into the community and can become a part of it. I really feel that we need to look at that, because down the road, as people get older, they're going to want to move back into a smaller lot, perhaps, or smaller home. That's why these retirement communities have become so popular. And I don't know who's going to buy their homes in North Logan. I don't think it's going to be your very young family starting out. I think it's going to be more going to be,
Yeah.
you know, the
I guess my comment.
Didn't you show us a plan of R12 concept on there, Jake? Didn't you have a plan with
I think so.
Yeah, it's there.
Yeah.
Right there.
And that's what the neighbors were shooting for around there? And
That was
so
on the edge
you're
of
telling us that R12 is not going to meet your young family idea? I don't understand.
It meets the young family idea. It didn't meet the neighbor's idea. They wanted lots larger than that, even though they live on lots smaller than that.
I thought the neighbors were okay with R12.
No, I think R15.
It was on the edge of where they were, and they balked a little when they started hearing that. R150 they were good with, and then that was the first gradation where they're like, there was some pushback.
And I would ask you, excuse me, but I would ask you, as you think about this, just to consider who's moving in there. Look at this for all of North Logan. Of course, you want to hear what the neighbors think, but they haven't been appointed by the city council to serve the entire city of North Logan. And we know that this one project, well, this is a drop in the bucket for housing in Cache Valley. It's just a tiny drop, but of course we got to fill that bucket up. So.
Question for you. You mentioned the SF6, including that in there. I guess one of the things that I'm struggling maybe to reconcile a little, and maybe you can answer for me, is if you have SF6 and you have buildings, and I know they're smaller, but they also require higher grade materials, and it seems like in the end, the price, tends to go back up and is probably more like a more expensive, a larger home. Tell me your thoughts when you build on an SF6 type of a situation where they're requiring those higher quality materials. What is that going to do to the prices of those houses?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. And I've toyed with that too. I've been out of the building business for some time, but the different quality requirements would raise the price. The size of the lot would decrease the price. I don't have any exact numbers that I could, to say, hey, yeah, I would think that even with the quality issues in FS6, the decrease in the cost of the lot would offset that. And it would result in a house that would not cost as much as a larger home on a larger lot.
Okay.
I think Lifestyle, I don't know if they've finished, but they've built some homes down on Wolfpack on a development I helped them with a few years ago. And I think it's, they're coming in the 300,000 range. So you're right. It's certainly, the idea was to really push that quality up high with the SF6. And so that those two kind of do offset each other, but it does provide a market for those who are, want something nice, but not necessarily a big lot. These days, even a lot of millennials, they'd rather be mountain biking than mowing the lawn. And so there is a market for that.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's actually an interesting point, Jake. As I watch or listen to your presentation, in some of the figures, and I've read through the moderate incoming housing plan, And I guess, you know, I'd like to poke at that a little bit. So we have a city goal of 776 new homes by 2024. And Spencer Allen, correct me if I'm wrong. This is new doors. This isn't necessarily a single family home, correct? No, I'm asking about the definition, not the numbers. Like, so do we really have a plan that states we're going to build 776 single family homes by 2024? Or is this 776 doors? So multifamily, higher density.
Yeah, I think it's a combination. I don't think it's just single family homes. I may be wrong. I haven't read through the whole thing for a little bit, but
If I could, 65% of the 776 were to be single family detached. The difference, the remaining, whatever that number is, 200 and something from 509, were multifamily or very low income, like a.
So the plan itself calls for 500 new detached individual units. Yes. Correct. Okay.
Yes.
You know, so it kind of does beg the question back to what you kind of mentioned, Jake, there about, you know, what do these young families want? They want to be mountain biking and not taking care of a yard. And so I did a quick survey of North Logan. And so, I mean, we have approximately 20 developments or you know, housing complexes or subdivisions, including, you know, several of the you know, the recent ones, and a lot of them are apartments and multifamily. But you know, some quick math there, and you're looking at, you know, approximately, and looks like 3 or 4 of these are include senior type places, but you've got almost 2,000 units in these, which you know, equates to about 11,000 people in North Logan itself, and so I'm trying to grasp here how the implication that North Logan not standing up or meeting its plan or its objective to try and, you know, meet this moderate income housing. And is this moderate housing income, is this home ownership, or is this just somewhere they can afford to live? You know, a lot of these that I mentioned, you know, you've got the Bridger Point, North Point apartments, you've got all the Four Seasons complex down there. You know, there's significant amounts of housing, and agreeing it's not home ownership, but I'm just trying to understand, you know, what does North Logan fit? You know, I was born and raised here, and then even tried to raise a young family here, and so I've been there. I lived in the townhome for a while, and you know, so I do understand that, but from a, you know, trying to meet our obligation from moderate housing, I feel like North Logan's done a pretty incredible job of trying to play an important role in the community and meet that need.
Maybe I can add some light to that.
That'd be great. Thanks.
On the demographics under the moderate income housing plan, it says that the population is expected to increase by 19.5% by 2024. 2024 population projected to be 12,118. Currently, it's around 10,140. And I believe that's how they got the number of 776 new housing units to be able to accommodate increase in population.
Mhm.
Does that answer your question or make sense?
And
Yeah,
Commissioner-
and this may be for, you know, Spencer Allen. So if I'm doing the math though, I don't see that as necessarily home ownership. That's we're trying to provide moderate income housing. And so I guess I'm struggling to try building 700 single family homes to meet that population. And maybe I'm missing something here. I'm just trying to, I'm real time kind of scrolling through this, trying to understand. I think there's 3 or 4 things here. One is, you know, for me as a planning commissioner, you know, I'm listening to the residents and especially the neighbors right there. But I'm also trying to look at, you know, you've made a statement here that you know, North Logan's got a plan and we got to live it. My sense of being has been that we're doing a significant effort in our part to meet that housing plan. But what I'm hearing is that there's an indication here that we have more to do. And I'm just trying to understand, you know, where we will sit with that.
Okay, Commissioner Coleman, if I could just add one perception, is that there's a little bit of, there's some ground in the middle, and that's what we're trying to go for. With the city center project and the apartments that you've mentioned, there is quite a bit of rentals. And of course, we know that North Logan has a lot of properties that are large lots, big acres, you know, half acre and bigger. But there's a spot there in the middle, a little bit of a sweet spot that's missing. And that's where the smaller to medium sized lots, you know, the 8,000 square foot lot, the 10,000 square foot lot, maybe a little bit of the 6,000 square foot lot. One, there's a market for that for younger families and older senior couples like those as well. And then also just the affordability part. There's kind of there's those that want it for size, and then there's those who want it for affordability. And what we're saying is that's where we think this project would be fantastic. And certainly there's a market and it fits kind of a missing gap in the housing market. Certainly North Logan's built a lot of housing, and we're just saying, okay, this focuses in, and this can help you achieve that plan of, and what the plan says is 65% of the 776 units should be single family. So certainly not all of them, but a good portion of it.
Well, I guess I'm wondering how, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me that there's a really strong opposition to the R112 or even the R110, if that's kind of where we are in the surrounding neighborhoods. I think this is something that we've talked about in the past, is looking at some of the areas that either are zoned for acre lots and saying, what makes more sense? Like what, and to me, this is a prime one that says, you know, we're next to similar density housing. Like, why wouldn't we gravitate more towards R112 at the largest? Like, I think this is prime for creating some reasonably sized lots, not next to acre lots, but just kind of having, I don't know. And I want to be sensitive to, you know, residents' concerns, but this to me seems exactly what we're trying to do as a planning commission.
Well, and that's what I'm thinking. I don't know why we keep talking about the other stuff. We're looking at this parcel of land. What do we think? Do we think we should go R112, R10? Isn't that what we're supposed to be talking about tonight? I don't know. Spencer,
Yeah.
what are we supposed to be doing?
That's where I am too. I don't know who I'm asking that question of, but like, I don't think, I don't feel close to saying R16, but I also think that if we go much bigger than R112, it just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I think that that's a good point, that if you're talking about more design elements that make it look better, I mean, we don't want a row of cookie cutter houses that are cheaply done and just slammed in here. But I think that's a good point to say, if we have some design standards and it's quite similar to what's around it, like that's my input, is I think that's perfectly reasonable.
I do too. I think similar to what's around it. I think the city center, tiny is a little maybe too much, but I'm thinking.
Yeah, just to step in here a little bit on like what we're looking for here. After talking, we spoke with Jake and Dawn. We had a meeting. We sat down with them, Alan and I, over Zoom, and just kind of a temperature check is where we're at. Obviously, no decisions. There will have to be a public hearing to answer the question of where the R115 kind of is coming from. It's just the context of remembering the past, and that's really where that's the only place that number has come from, is the past meetings, and lots of residents came out to those meetings, and after the workshop and trying to get an idea from the residents, because when you're at a public meeting, all you hear is we don't want development, but after we had that workshop with the developer, residents, planning commission, city council, we were able to kind of hash through some of the ideas and some of the zoning a little more. And that's when we kind of got that R115. There were a couple of people in the room, council members, that were okay with R112. The majority said R115, and then there were a couple that were kind of holding the line at R120. So that's where that number is coming from. Just, yeah, for a rough idea.
I don't see that being a reasonable demand, even from neighbors, to say, hey, we want this to be R120. Like, I'd be happy to listen to that input and to have a dialogue, but I don't really understand that.
Right. And I guess, again, one more point of input, where I've come down, and I tend to be in that R112 area where I fit. I hear the moderate income housing, and I understand what you're saying. I think that North Logan, because land and homes go somewhat according to location. And I think you look at North Logan and you say, there are more people who would like to live here than, and not to pick on maybe other cities, but, Lewiston or somewhere, some people will like that, but I think you have a fair number that say North Logan is convenient we have schools, we have shopping, we still have a smaller town feel, and there's a lot of things that make it attractive, which I think will make the prices overall higher than many of the other communities in the valley.
Eric, I have several questions and a couple of comments, if it's appropriate now to ask those, or.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Well, as you were alluding to, the three most important things on value is location, location, location. And I think we need to try to keep a homogeneous appeal to our neighborhoods. So I think being consistent, somewhat consistent as much as we can, and still encouraging development. It's going to come. We need to be as sensitive to both the current residents as well as to our developers. Can someone tell me what is the size of the lots in a SF6 development? Spencer?
Yeah, those are 6,000 square foot minimum.
6,000 minimum?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then to Dawn, are you going to be the only person who will be constructing the homes, or will you be selling the lots and other contractors will also be constructing homes?
Nope, you're on mute, Don. You're still on mute, Don. Remember that button.
Yeah, Don, you're on mute. There you go.
All
How
right.
about that?
Yep.
Okay. I personally would not be constructing these homes. I'm not sure what I would like to do as a builder that would follow the CNRs and figure out that he can and build out the subdivision. I think there's a lot of accountability. I would rather not sell it to individual contractors for that reason. So my goal would be to find a reputable builder, local from the valley if possible, that would build the entire thing out.
And I would just add that's where, like we said before, we would be, Don, I'm speaking on behalf of you, but that we would present the CCNRs as a development agreement at the time of rezone. And then also those could be when the lots are platted, they would be going with that. I mean, we want to be true to our word to try to carry these design ideas all the way through. And it can't just be a presentation or a verbal, you know, it has to go all the way to recorded, and it's part of the sell agreement between Don to the actual builder that's building it as well. You're still on mute.
I'm just agreeing with you. Yes.
Okay.
Very good.
Dwight, other things you wondered about?
Pardon me?
Was there anything else you had, Dwight?
Yeah, under the definition there of new homes for our moderate income, that the goal of what was it, 706? That is, it's new homes versus single family residents. I think are different.
You know, you're right. That should read new units. So my mistake on the presentation. Take that as new units on that that total number. But the 500 is where the single family would come in, doing the math, looking at the plan.
Okay.
So that would support Eric's point in that if we're talking new units, perhaps the city is doing okay as we have been in the past, and with the plans going forward, we're probably okay with our long range plan.
Well, the plan does say 500 single family, which equal about 100 per year, and currently about 43 a year are being built. And of course, the city is not a builder. We fully,
Yeah.
that's obvious that the city is not a builder, but Don, being a developer who will bring in builders, is here to work with you.
And that's something that the city can't really do, only address those requests as they come in from builders or developers. But, I just wanted to clarify that point, that maybe we're not doing too bad as we are currently on track. And the market, as long as interest rates stay down, there's probably a potential for good markets then, and for people to be able to afford homes within the price ranges that would be homogeneous to the neighborhood.
All right. I'm feeling kind of like we're getting to an end point here. Is there any last things that anybody has to say? Hopefully this has been helpful to you, Jake and Don. Give you some feeling of where the commissioners stand, and kind of some approaches and philosophies, and what we're looking at.
It's been very helpful, and I want to thank you. As a takeaway, what I'm hearing is, you know, a 10 or 12,000 square foot lot size would be something that you guys could consider supporting. Is that what I'm hearing?
That's where I am, yeah.
In my opinion too.
Okay, well, that's great. We would like to bring in some of those smaller lots, but I understand the problem with that too. We were hoping to maybe get a few of those lots in a little bit smaller, and maybe we could use the determinant density thing to get a couple of smaller lots in there for a little more affordability too. I don't know. What do you think, Jake?
I think that's an option. Yeah, I'd be happy to look at that with you. And one thing just on the SF6, again, that was just looking at it, looking at all kinds of options in the beginning. And frankly, we probably wouldn't even looked at it had Mayor can not suggest just to take a look.
Yeah.
And,
All
so
right.
thank you so much. I appreciate your time.
I was just going to say, I think it's good to think about that, but I do think people get really concerned, like that suddenly you're going to put a high rise right there. And so that's my caution. I think it's interesting to see. I love the idea of having a park, but I do think people are kind of concerned about that.
Could we go back to the big, the overview again? Not the specific development, but from the city's perspective, where this is located.
Oh, if you're looking at my slide, let's see, it's at the beginning. Oh,
Say, was that Spencer's? Oh, right there, maybe. Yeah.
Spencer does have something else if you want to see, but this is as far zoomed out as I have.
To the, and I don't know my directions necessarily here, but going is that street that's on or this property, for example, say 040840045, if you had some transition lots, maybe some larger lots, and then towards the back side of your development, you had some smaller lots that were transition.
Spencer,
Others could pick up. That's
Dwight, I believe he said that the LDS Church bought those lots to the east.
okay.
Is that right?
It's not a LDS church, but it is a church bought this property right here.
Yeah, the New Life Fellowship bought that to expand their property there.
Okay. I was thinking that
So
all,
maybe there wouldn't be some issues since there's not going to be housing back there, that some of those smaller lots could be on that back side. Just a thought for you.
Spencer, those lots that are on the east that Dwight's talking about, they are one as well?
Just looking at the ones on the east, over here, like
Yes.
across the street from the church, or all that land that's empty and undeveloped is RE1. And I think ideally, if we were to rezone, I think just rezoning this one square probably wouldn't be the right move. We'd probably want to look at the whole thing, just because if it makes sense for the site we're thinking of, it probably makes sense for the rest. Maybe the one exception is if there is some sort of development agreement, but even then, we like to kind of rezone a little more than just one piece at a time. So, yeah, if we did rezone it, maybe we rezone the whole thing at the same time. But yeah, that right now that is RE1.
Because to me, Dwight, that's where, I see your point that, I hate to go from something that is small to something that's a lot bigger. I think to have transition makes sense. So, whether it's all zoned the same or whether there's transition there, that's something to consider. All right, folks. I think with that, let's wrap up this item of discussion.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right.
Thank you.
Have a good
Thank you
evening.
for coming.
Okay, with that, let's move on to item number 2, Discussion of an ordinance to amend Title 8 regulation of businesses to include requirements for short-term rentals as a home-based business. And Title 12 to adjust the definitions of a short-term rental and hotel or motel and to modify the use table to include short-term rentals and remove bed and breakfast. So Spencer, get us started up.
Okay. So this is the same ordinance as 2 weeks ago, just with the additions that we wanted to see. So this is the current definition for hotel motel. Like we looked at before, needed to be at least 6 guest rooms. I looked around at different definitions for this and specifically at cities with short-term rentals as well, to see if there's a good defining kind of aspect of it. I think having it as the primary purpose, an establishment with the primary purpose of providing for a fee, and then also including like the maid service, furnishing, upkeep of furniture, those type of elements that are in a hotel but aren't in an Airbnb, or sorry, short-term rental. Then the definition on short-term rental states that it's a portion or the entire structure that was constructed for single household or multi-household occupancy. So that kind of specifies that it's a house that is being used kind of secondarily as this rental. And it's a home-based business, which means it has to be secondary. So that's kind of the line that was drawn. I don't know if that's as clear as we wanted it, but then here's the use table. So short-term rentals are in there, permitted use in all residential zones. I left them out of commercial industrial type zones just because we don't have that as a use in there. I suppose we could have them in there if anybody feels strongly, but with them being primarily single family, multifamily, I figured it makes sense just to have them in the residential. Then remove bed and breakfast. And then the other thing that I highlighted in green was regarding to the short-term rental and taxes, TRT. And I need to change this STR. This was an acronym they used in Sandy's. But basically, this is a paragraph stating that they need to pay the business license fees and all the taxes associated and the Utah state tax. Some cities set up their own transient occupancy tax. I don't know what that would entail. Alan may have a little better idea on that. I don't know if we have the volume to make that worthwhile endeavor, but this would state that they have to pay that. And then when they get registered, then you have to provide the sales tax license issued by the state. So that's our way to verify. And then when they renew, the proof of payment of all the taxes would be submitted when it's renewed and can be reviewed anytime. And I don't know if business license official is the right title to be reviewed. Maybe we change that as well, but that's kind of the TRT. I don't know, Alan, if you have any thoughts on that function wise, but that's kind of the solution I came up with.
Your taxes, if you scroll back up there just for a second, your business license fees you pay directly to the city. The property taxes go to the county. Sales tax and Utah transient room tax go to the state, but then they're remitted back to the city in through an algorithm. So the sales tax comes back 50% point of sale, 50% based off of the city's population. And then Utah transient room tax just comes back in a portion to the city at that point from the state. Through a method that they determine.
So we wouldn't have a separate city transient room tax then? It would just be
no, it's determined by them, but it is a tax that they would have to pay.
Yeah, so this basically states they have to verify it, and they just have to verify it when they register and then when they renew. So business licenses renew every year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which essentially means for them to continue from year to year using it as a short-term rental, they need to come into the city once a year to renew that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I think so far so good. Does that basically it, Spencer, as far as the modifications?
Yep, that's it on the modifications to this one.
Okay. Input from any of our commission folks? Thoughts on what you're seeing there with the changes?
I'm not seeing anything on my screen. Are all of you seeing what's on Alan's,
It's,
on Spencer's?
we are, yeah, at least I am.
All right.
I'm seeing language of the ordinance with the green highlights that Spencer's added.
It sounds pretty clear to me.
Yeah, same with me.
Good job, Spencer.
Great.
All right. Craig, Jeff, anything else you have to say?
Sounds good to me. You got it, Spence.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay.
Great. Then I'll get a public hearing scheduled then for our meeting in December, and have it all cleaned up. I'll probably have Seth take a look at it one last time, just to verify it and give the thumbs up, and we should be good for that.
All right. Okay. I think that sounds like that wraps up discussion on that item. Okay, so with that, any other staff business, anything else that we need to discuss? Spencer?
The only thing that I have is meeting schedule. So we talked 2 weeks ago about doing just one meeting in December. The city council was kind of keeping tabs on the number of items on the agendas. They decided last night that they were going to go with that one meeting in December. So that'd be the second week of December. I believe that would be either the 9th. I think it's the 9th, or is that when city council?
Yeah, December 9th. So the planning commission would meet December 10th.
Okay, 10th. So it would be December 10th, and that would be our one meeting for December, rather than doing the two meetings. So if the planning commission is still good with that, we could follow city council, or we could stick with the two.
I think everybody still good with one meeting?
Right.
Everybody shaking their head yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Great.
All right. With that, then, it sounds like we are at the end of our meeting for tonight. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll motion to adjourn.
Motion
I'll
by
second
Lindsay,
it.
second by Nan. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thanks, staff.
Alan, are you still there?
Who are you looking for, Marie?
Alan,
Alan never goes away. He's always there.
can you stay on for a minute?
Okay.
All right. See you guys.